$2.1 million. It's the magic number that sparks endless debate in retirement circles. You'll hear some people insist on 1.1 million, while others claim you need at least 3.2 million. Your cousin, who is obsessed with decentralized finance, probably has a theory that sounds completely detached from reality. But 2.1 million? That's the figure that repeatedly surfaces as the perfect balance between barely enough and genuinely comfortable. Today, we are going to verify if that holds true. What does life actually look like retired with a $2.1 million portfolio? Forget the social media facade of endless cocktails on a private boat. We are looking at the reality. I'm Pam, and today we're doing a deep dive into the whole picture: the income streams, the tax implications, the daily spending, and the actual lifestyle you buy. By the time we finish, you will likely feel a surge of motivation mixed with a slight dose of anxiety. Honestly, a combination of both is probably healthy. Let's get started. First, we need to establish the ground rules. Having $2.1 million stagnating in a standard savings account, earning a pitiful 0.02% interest at your local bank, is vastly different from having that same amount in a properly invested portfolio. We are assuming $2.1 million that is actively working for you, allocated across a diversified mix of low-cost index funds, perhaps some bond exposure, and maybe a touch of real estate investment trusts. The whole package. Applying the standard 4% withdrawal rule, which regular viewers of this channel know well, that equates to $84,000 per year, $84,000 annually without ever needing to clock into a job again. I'll let that sink in for a moment. Now, before you rush off to finalize your retirement party plans, pause. There is much more to cover. We first need to address where this money is strategically located and how you access it, because those factors change the entire outcome. Here is the critical detail most people overlook. Investment location is just as important as investment allocation. For the typical person nearing retirement, their $2.1 million won't be in one pile. It will be split across several distinct buckets. Bucket number 1, tax-deferred accounts, like your traditional 401k and traditional IRA. This is usually the largest component for the average American retiree, and there's a solid reason for that. The arrangement that makes these accounts so potent initially is the pre-tax benefit. Every dollar you contribute goes in before the IRS takes a cut, and absolutely all of it, your contributions, any employer matching, and every cent of growth, compounds for decades completely untaxed. The catch? The IRS hasn't forgiven that tax bill. They have merely delayed it. Money enters pre-tax, grows tax-deferred, and when you withdraw it in retirement, surprise, income tax is due. Uncle Sam has waited patiently for decades for his share, and retirement is when he finally arrives to collect. The upside? In retirement, you will likely fall into a lower tax bracket than during your peak earning years, meaning you effectively captured a discount. You dodge taxes at a high rate while working, and you pay them back at a lower rate later. That is the entire strategy. The potentially frustrating news? Every single dollar you pull from a traditional 401k counts as ordinary income. Withdraw $84,000, and you are facing federal income tax, likely state income tax, and you might even begin losing access to specific tax credits. It feels like retirement is a video game where taxes are the final boss that you can never truly defeat. Bucket number 2, Roth accounts, the tax-free zone. If you were strategic, or perhaps following a brilliant finance channel like this one, you also hold assets in a Roth IRA or Roth 401k. Now, the Roth operates in reverse compared to a traditional 401k. You contribute after-tax dollars, meaning you settle your income taxes up front before a single dollar is invested. No tax deduction, no immediate break today. But here is the trade-off that makes this account borderline miraculous. Because you already paid the IRS on the way in, they have no claim on the way out. This money grows with absolute tax-free status and is withdrawn in retirement completely tax-free. No income tax, none, zero, zilch. This is unequivocally the most powerful retirement tool available to everyday Americans, and it is criminally underutilized. If you possess a significant chunk of your 2.1 million in Roth accounts, you gain serious flexibility in retirement because you can precisely control what your taxable income looks like from year to year. Bucket number 3, taxable brokerage accounts. This is your standard investment account. There is no special tax treatment on contributions, but long-term capital gains are taxed at preferential rates compared to ordinary income. If you hold investments for over a year before selling, you pay 0, 15, or 20%, dependent on your total income. For many retirees, this can actually be highly tax efficient, particularly if you are strategic about the order in which you draw from accounts. The ideal portfolio at retirement? A healthy mix of all 3 buckets. You want optionality. You want the ability to say, this year I'll pull from my Roth because my other income sources are high, or this year I'll harvest some capital gains at the 0% rate because my taxable income is low enough. That level of tax planning isn't just for CPAs. It is the difference between keeping your full $84,000 and keeping something closer to $73,000 after taxes. Here is where I believe most retirement content completely fails. They show you the spreadsheet, but they never show you the actual life. So let's visualize the reality. You are retired with $2.1 million invested. Let's assume you are withdrawing that $84,000 a year. After federal taxes, assuming a relatively standard tax situation, your take-home pay is probably hovering somewhere around $71,400 to $75,600 annually. Let's call it $73,500 to keep the math clean. That works out to about $6,125 per month. Now, is that wealthy? No. Is that jet-setting around the globe in first class and dining at 5-star restaurants nightly? Absolutely not. But is it genuinely comfortable? 100% yes, in the vast majority of the country. Here is what a sample monthly budget with that income could look like. Housing. $1,250 to $1,600. If you own your home outright, this just covers property taxes, insurance, and necessary maintenance. Huge advantage there. Food, $650 to $850. Real groceries, and a reasonable amount of dining out at nice places. You are retired, not in prison. Healthcare, $850 to $1,250. This item shocks people the most. If you retire before Medicare eligibility at 65, private health insurance is genuinely expensive. Transportation, $450 to $650. Car payments, insurance, fuel, or if the car is paid off, just the operational costs. Travel and leisure, $650 to $850. This is where retirement gets enjoyable. Road trips, visiting the grandkids, perhaps a cruise that doesn't feel embarrassingly budget tier. Utilities and subscriptions, $350 to $450. Yes, you will inevitably subscribe to too many streaming services. Don't kid yourself. Miscellaneous buffer, $350 to $450, because your water heater doesn't care that you stopped working. That totals roughly $4,550 to $6,100 per month, which means at $6,125 a month, you have breathing room. Not luxury breathing room, but real, meaningful financial peace. And here is the aspect people often forget. Once in retirement, many of your largest expenses vanish entirely. No more saving for retirement, obviously, no more FICA payroll taxes. No more professional wardrobe costs or commuting expenses. No more buying expensive lunches because your manager scheduled a 12:30 meeting, and you somehow convinced yourself that was normal behavior for 30 years. Those costs add up significantly more than you realize. We have to discuss Social Security because for most people, this is the variable that alters the entire equation. Here is the deal. If you retire at 62, you can begin collecting Social Security, but the benefit is permanently reduced compared to waiting until your full retirement age, which is 67 for most people born after 1960. And if you delay until 70, your benefit increases by roughly 8% per year for every year you wait past full retirement age. So what does this mean for our retiree with $2.1 million? Let's say you retire at 65 with that amount invested. Instead of pulling the full $84,000 right away, you draw perhaps $63,000 to $68,000 for a couple of years, knowing that at 67, Social Security kicks in at roughly $25,200 annually. That is over $2,000 a month, arriving clockwork style without touching a single investment share. From that point forward, your portfolio only needs to bridge the gap between your Social Security check and your total desired spending. We are talking about $58,000 to $60,000 a year in investment withdrawals instead of $84,000. That single shift can extend the lifespan of your portfolio from 30 years to potentially 40 or 50 years. And if you are married, with 2 checks and 2 earners, worth of benefits, suddenly $2.1 million stops looking just comfortable and starts looking genuinely bulletproof. The takeaway here: Social Security is not merely a rounding error. It is a massive piece of the retirement puzzle, and coordinating when you claim it with how you draw down your portfolio is one of the highest value decisions you will make. Do not leave this on autopilot. Look, I wouldn't be doing my job properly if I just told you, 2.1 million, you're set, go buy a boat. There are very real risks to plan for, and I want to walk through the big 3. Risk number 1, sequence of returns risk. This term sounds technical, but the concept is genuinely terrifying. Here is the scenario. You retire, the market crashes 40% in year 1, and you are still withdrawing your $84,000. You are now forced to sell shares at the absolute worst possible time while prices are depressed, permanently reducing the number of shares you hold to recover when the market eventually bounces back. The 4% rule accounts for this historically, but that doesn't mean it won't be incredibly stressful to watch your $2.1 million shrink to $1.26 million in your first year of retirement. Having a cash buffer, 1 to 2 years of living expenses in a high-yield savings account, means you don't have to touch your stock investments during a downturn. You just sip your coffee, watch the market panic on TV, and wait it out. Risk number 2, healthcare costs. I am going to state this clearly. Healthcare is the biggest wild card in American retirement planning. If you retire before 65, you are paying full freight for private health insurance premiums until Medicare kicks in. Budget generously here, embarrassingly generously. Your future self will thank you for the buffer. Risk number 3, inflation. $2.1 million sounds fantastic in today's money, but if inflation runs at 3% per year, which is historically fairly normal, your purchasing power gets cut roughly in half over 24 years. That $84,000 withdrawal today needs to be $168,000 in about 24 years, just to buy the exact same basket of goods. This is why it is critical to keep a significant portion of your portfolio in growth assets, primarily stocks, even during retirement. The old "move everything to bonds" advice is outdated for people who could easily live another 30 years. You need growth. You just need to balance it with enough stability to sleep soundly at night. So who is $2.1 million actually enough for? Let's be honest about something important. $2.1 million is not a universal answer for everyone. It depends enormously on your geographic location, what your lifestyle entails, and what you actually want retirement to feel like. If you are retiring in downtown San Francisco or Manhattan, $84,000 a year is going to feel very tight. Rent for a decent one-bedroom apartment in those areas can easily be $4,200 a month. That is almost your entire budget just for housing. For high cost of living cities, you either need significantly more than $2.1 million or you need to be willing to relocate. If you are retiring in Asheville, North Carolina, or Boise, Idaho, or Sarasota, Florida, or honestly most of the middle and southeastern United States, $84,000 a year is a genuinely great income. You can own a lovely home, dine out regularly, travel a few times a year, and still feel financially secure. $2.1 million in a lower cost of living area is legitimately life-changing wealth. And if you are someone who has a paid-off house by the time you retire, the math gets exponentially better. Eliminating a mortgage or rent payment saves $1,600 to $3,150 a month for many people. That is not a minor detail. That changes the entire trajectory of what $2.1 million can do for your lifestyle. The honest answer: $2.1 million is enough for a comfortable, secure, meaningful retirement for a wide range of Americans. But it is not set for life, no worries ever again money. You still need to be smart about your spending habits. You still need to plan carefully for healthcare. You still need to avoid making catastrophically dumb decisions with your large pile of money in year one of retirement. I'm not naming any specific names, but we all know someone who retired and immediately bought a brand new boat and a vacation condo simultaneously. Don't be that person. Okay, I know some of you watching are nowhere near $2.1 million yet, and you are wondering, cool, this is helpful, but how do I actually build this? The quick version: invest consistently in tax-advantaged accounts, like your 401k, IRA, and Roth IRA, starting as early as humanly possible, utilizing low-fee index funds. Don't try to beat the market, because the data is brutally clear that most people who try actually just pay higher fees to underperform simple indexes. Keep your savings rate as high as you can reasonably sustain without making your current life miserable. If you invest $2,100 a month, starting at age 30, and earn an average of 8% per year, which is roughly the historical real return of the US stock market, you will hit $2.1 million right around age 57. Do the same thing starting at age 25, and you reach that goal by 52. Time is the unfair advantage that most people waste by waiting too long to start. Here is the truth most people don't realize until much later in life. $2.1 million isn't really about yachts, luxury goods, or showing off to neighbors. It's not even about being rich in the way popular culture imagines. What it really buys you is control. Control over your time, control over your mornings, and control over your decisions. It is the ability to wake up because you are finished sleeping, not because an alarm clock dictates it. That $84,000 a year isn't just income, it is freedom in disguise. It is sleeping better at night, knowing your livelihood isn't tied to a job you can't stand. It is not having that quiet, Sunday evening anxiety counting down the hours to Monday morning. It is being able to say yes to the things that matter deeply to you, and no to the things that don't, without asking anyone for permission. And honestly, that kind of freedom is worth far more than any version of flashy wealth people try to sell you online. If you found this video helpful, smash that like button. It genuinely helps the channel more than you know. Drop a comment below. What is your retirement number? Are you aiming for 2.1 million? More? Less? Let's talk about it down there. I'm Pam, and I'll see you in the next one.